Good for nothing but paying bills. Those were my daughter-in-law's last words before losing everything. I'm Rick Sullivan, and I've been invisible for 4 years. My daughter-in-law stood at that podium, celebrating my son's self-made success, while I sat in the corner like furniture. She had no idea the company she was bragging about. I owned 60% of it. The health insurance she thought came from her job, my checkbook, the car she drove to work every day, my signature on the lease. But that night at the WeWork celebration, when she told a room full of investors that I was good for nothing but paying bills, something inside me shifted. So I did what any reasonable investor would do. I called my attorney. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. This is a story about power, respect, and what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. Let me take you back to how a retired nobody became the silent king of Austin's hottest startup, and why silence isn't always golden. Here's what everyone saw. Rick Sullivan, 64, divorced, driving a 2018 Toyota Camry, Costco khakis and polo shirts, living alone in a modest condo, the embarrassing dad who somehow always needed money. Here's what they didn't know. In January 2020, I sold Sullivan Industrial Supply for $3.2 million after tax, 43 years building that business from nothing. And when my son Brandon came to me with his data stream analytics pitch deck, covered in coffee stains and big dreams, I saw something. Not just the app, not just the market opportunity. I saw my boy, finally passionate about something. So I wrote the check, $850,000, seed money to make his dreams real. But Brandon had a request. Dad, can you stay quiet about the investment? Investors take us more seriously if they think we're self-made. I understood. Startup culture is funny that way. Everyone wants to be the next garage to greatness story. Nobody wants to be the kid who got daddy's money. So I became Madison and Bennett Capital Group, LLC, shell company, clean paperwork. Brandon could tell his story however he wanted. What I didn't expect was how completely I'd disappear. The health insurance for his little family? $2,100 a month, straight from my account. Madison thought it was a company benefit. Brandon told her the startup provided it. The BMW lease for her, the Tesla for him. $1,340 a month total. My signature, my credit, my payments. But she believed it was part of his founder package. Her student loans from business school? $89,000 in debt, $890 a month automatic payments. She thought Brandon had negotiated some kind of loan forgiveness program. Month after month, year after year, I paid for their life while she built her LinkedIn brand around their bootstrap journey. The worst part? I was proud of them. DataStream was working. 28 employees, real revenue, real clients. They were building something, but I wasn't part of it. When I visited the office, Madison made me use the employee entrance. Said the front lobby was for clients and investors only. I didn't argue. I just wanted to see my son succeed. When they had their holiday party, she handed me a different invitation. Employee plus one event, different day, different location. While the real party happened at some fancy rooftop downtown. When I tried to hold my grandson during one office visit, she physically stepped between us. You're not on the visitor list, Rick. Insurance liability. My own grandson. In my own company. The LinkedIn posts were the hardest to watch. Madison posting every milestone. Brandon's vision and my hustle brought us to $5 million in revenue. So proud of what we've built together through blood, sweat, and pure determination. Pure determination. No mention of the $850,000 in pure cash that made it all possible. I told myself it was worth it. Family harmony. Brandon's happiness. The joy of watching him succeed, even from the shadows. But there's a difference between being humble and being invisible, and I was starting to understand which one I'd become. The operating agreement sat in my filing cabinet. 60% ownership, full voting control, authority to call emergency board meetings, legal right to examine all books and records. All the power in the world, gathering dust while I sat in the corner at their celebrations. But that was before April 15th, 2024. Before Madison's speech. Before she forgot that some bills are more important than others. Because the thing about being invisible, sometimes people forget you're watching. And when you've been watching long enough, you see everything. By 2024, the disrespect had become a system. I wasn't just excluded from their success story, I was actively written out of it. The company directory listed Madison as co-founder and VP marketing. No mention that co-founders usually own equity. No mention that she'd joined 6 months after the company launched. After my money built the foundation, HR had a file on me. Apparently, Madison filed a complaint when I showed up unannounced one Tuesday. Unauthorized solicitation on company property. That's what she called a father visiting his son's office. The security guard knew me by name, but not in a good way. "Mr. Sullivan, I'll need to call upstairs before you can go up." Like I was some kind of threat. At family dinners, the conversation always turned to business. Madison would talk about their latest client wins, their expansion plans, their investor meetings. Brandon would nod along, playing the visionary founder role. I'd sit there, eating pot roast, listening to them plan the future of my own investment. When investors asked about their funding history, Brandon had a smooth story ready. Angel investor who preferred to stay anonymous. Standard in the industry. Technically true. Completely misleading. The local tech press loved them. Austin Business Journal ran a cover story. The power couple building Austin's next unicorn. 2 full pages about their scrappy startup journey and self-funded beginnings. I kept a copy of that article, tucked it right next to my wire transfer receipts. But the worst part wasn't the credit they took. It was the access they controlled. My grandson was growing up thinking Grandpa Rick was some guy who showed up for birthdays and holidays. Madison scheduled our visits like doctor's appointments. "Rick can come over Sunday afternoon for 2 hours. 2 hours, with my own family." Brandon tried to smooth things over sometimes. "You know how Madison is about boundaries, Dad. She's just protective of our space. Our space. Built with my money, in my company, with my ongoing financial support. I was paying for health insurance I couldn't use, car leases I couldn't drive, and student loans for someone who thought I was a burden. But here's what they didn't understand about silence. It's not the same as acceptance. Every month when I reviewed the statements, I made notes. Every payment, every wire transfer, every benefit I provided while they built their mythology. Because I knew something they didn't. In business, documentation is everything. And I'd been documenting for 4 years straight. The question wasn't whether I had the power to change things. The question was when I'd finally decide to use it. That answer was coming sooner than they imagined. April 15th, 2024, the date everything changed. Data Stream Analytics had just hit $5 million in annual revenue. Real milestone, real achievement. And they were celebrating at the WeWork downtown, glass conference room overlooking the Austin skyline. 45 people showed up. Employees, investors, clients, local tech reporters. Even the mayor sent someone from his office. I got my invitation 3 days before. Different from everyone else's, of course. Cheap card stock instead of the heavy paper everyone else received. Reception and networking, 6 to 8 p.m. Their invitation said celebration dinner, 5 to 10 p.m. with cocktail hour. But I showed up anyway. Wore my best polo shirt and khakis. Brought a bottle of champagne. The setup was beautiful. Madison had real talent for events. String lights, branded banners, catered food from that expensive place on South First. Professional photographer capturing every moment. I found a spot in this back corner near the coffee station. Good view of the room. Good place to watch my investment come to life. Brandon looked confident at the front of the room, talking to investors, shaking hands, playing the part perfectly. He'd grown into the role over these 4 years. Genuine leadership presence. Madison worked the room like a professional. Introducing people, managing conversations, making sure everyone felt important. She was good at this. Really good. For a moment, I felt proud. Whatever else was happening, they were building something real. Then Madison stepped up to the microphone. "Good evening, everyone, and thank you for celebrating this incredible milestone with us." Polite applause. She waited for it to settle. 5 years ago, Brandon had a vision. Data analytics that could actually help small businesses compete with the big players. Simple tools, powerful insights, affordable prices. She was good at public speaking. Confident, warm, professional. But vision without execution is just dreaming, and execution without persistence is just hoping. More applause. People were engaged, leaning in. What we've built here at DataStream isn't just a company. It's proof that with enough vision, enough hustle, and enough determination, you can build something that matters. The room was eating it up. I watched faces around me nodding, smiling, inspired. Brandon's vision and my hustle brought us here tonight. 5 million in revenue, 28 employees, clients in 37 states. She paused for effect. Professional timing. We did this ourselves. No trust funds, no family money, no shortcuts, just two people who believed in an idea and refused to quit. The applause was stronger now. People love a good bootstrap story. We've had investors try to buy us out. We've had competitors try to crush us. We've had family members question our choices. I felt something cold in my stomach. Where was this going? But we stayed true to our vision. We built this company the right way, with integrity, with authenticity, with real value for real customers. Standing ovation. Everyone on their feet except me. I stayed in my corner, watching my son beam with pride at his wife's speech, watching investors pull out business cards, watching reporters take notes. Then Madison's eyes found mine across the room. And to everyone who supported us along the way, who believed in our vision even when others didn't, thank you. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She was scanning the room, finding faces to acknowledge. To our early employees who took a chance on a startup, to our first clients who trusted us with their data, to our investors who saw the potential before anyone else. I waited. Surely some acknowledgement, some small recognition. Instead, she turned to Brandon, and especially to my brilliant husband, who never stopped believing we could build something extraordinary. The applause was deafening. Brandon stepped up to the microphone, and Madison kissed his cheek for the cameras. That's when I heard it. Two investors standing near me, champagne glasses in hand, talking just loud enough for me to catch. "Great story," the first one said. "Love the self-made angle. Absolutely. None of this trust fund nonsense you see with most startups." "Speaking of which," the first investor nodded toward me. "See that old man in the corner? Brandon's dad. Madison was telling me earlier he's good for nothing but paying bills when he guilt trips Brandon. Can't wait till this company goes public and they're free of him." The second investor laughed. Family baggage. Every successful entrepreneur has to deal with it eventually. Thank God Brandon had the backbone to build this without family money. Shows real character. I stood there, champagne bottle still in my hand, listening to investors celebrate my son's character for building a company without family money. Family money. Like the $850,000 I'd invested. Like the ongoing payments for their health insurance, their cars, their lifestyle. The room kept celebrating around me. Brandon was taking selfies with employees. Madison was giving interviews to the Austin Business Journal reporter. And I was invisible again. Worse than invisible. I was the family baggage they were proud to have overcome. I set my champagne bottle on the coffee station table and walked toward the exit. Nobody noticed me leave. But in the parking garage, sitting in my Toyota Camry, I did something I hadn't done in 4 years. I pulled out my phone and called Vincent Anderson. Vincent had been my corporate attorney since 2018. He'd structured the LLC. He'd written the operating agreement. He'd been waiting patiently for this call. "Vincent, it's Rick Sullivan. I think it's time we had that conversation." Vincent Anderson had been expecting my call for 3 years. Not because he wanted drama. Vincent doesn't do drama. He does documentation. And the documentation told a very clear story. "Rick," he said when I reached him that night, "I was wondering when you'd finally get tired of being invisible." We met the next morning at his office, downtown Austin, 23rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lady Bird Lake, the kind of office that charges $800 an hour and delivers results worth every penny. Vincent pulled out a manila folder, thick one. "Let's review what we have. First document, the operating agreement. Madison and Bennett Capital Group LLC, established January 2020. Rick Sullivan as managing member, 60% ownership stake, full voting control, authority to call emergency board meetings with 72 hours notice." "You've had majority control from day one," Vincent reminded me. "Everything they've built, you technically own." Second document. Wire transfer records. $850,000 initial investment. $340,000 in additional loans over 4 years. All documented, all traceable. "They never repaid a penny," Vincent noted. "Legally, these aren't loans anymore. their additional capital contributions. Third set, monthly payment records, health insurance, car leases, student loan payments. Every transaction from my personal accounts to their benefit. Rick, you're paying $26,000 annually for their lifestyle. They think it's coming from the company. I'd known the numbers. Seeing them organized in Vincent's handwriting made them feel heavier. Fourth pile, email evidence. 47 messages from Brandon requesting money. Always phrased as temporary loans. Never with repayment schedules. Dad, can you cover health insurance this month? Cash flow is tight. Dad need help with Madison's student loan payment. We'll pay you back when the Johnson contract comes through. Dad, car lease is due. Can you handle it? Big investor meeting next week. Every email saved. Every request documented. Here's what's interesting, Vincent continued. Look at the language Brandon uses. He's not asking for gifts, he's asking for loans. But there's no loan documentation, no repayment terms, no interest rates. Fifth category, public statements. LinkedIn posts, press articles, company website bio pages. All celebrating their self-made journey and bootstrapped success. Legally, this creates an interesting situation, Vincent explained. They've built a public narrative that directly contradicts the financial reality. If investors or lenders made decisions based on these false statements, he didn't need to finish. We both knew where that led. Sixth item, the cap table. Certified by DataStream's own lawyers for their latest funding round. Clear ownership breakdown showing Madison and Bennett Capital Group LLC as 60% majority shareholder. Every investor has seen this document. Every board meeting references it. There's no ambiguity about who owns what. Seventh piece, the buyback clause. Buried in Section 12 of the operating agreement. If majority shareholder requests buyout, minority shareholders have 90 days to purchase majority stake at fair market value based on revenue multiples. Current revenue puts fair market value around $4.8 million, Vincent calculated. They'd need to buy you out for roughly $4.8 million in 90 days, or you maintain controlling interest. I studied the documents spread across Vincent's conference table. 4 years of evidence, 4 years of careful record-keeping. Vincent, they have no idea this exists, do they? Brandon signed the operating agreement. He knows the structure, but I doubt he's read it recently. And Madison? Vincent shook his head. She's never seen any of this. What about their ability to raise $4.8 million? Vincent smiled. Not a happy smile, a lawyer smile. Rick, their latest investor meeting was for a $2 million Series A round. They've been trying to close that for 8 months. The idea that they could raise $4.8 million in 90 days to buy you out. He closed the manila folder. They can't, which means when you trigger the buyback clause, you'll have complete control of the company within 90 days. And then you decide what happens next. April 17th, 2 days after Madison's speech. Time to see what self-made really looked like. I started with the health insurance. 1 phone call to Blue Cross Blue Shield. I need to cancel the family policy for Brandon and Madison Sullivan, effective immediately. Mr. Sullivan, that policy covers 3 people, including a minor child. Are you sure you want to cancel? I'm sure. There's a grace period if this is about missed payments. It's not about missed payments. Cancel it today. The customer service representative went quiet. Sir, this will leave them without coverage. The child, that's their decision to make. By noon, Brandon's phone was ringing. By 12:30, he was standing in my living room. Dad, what's going on? Madison got a call that our health insurance was canceled. I was sitting in my recliner reading the newspaper. Didn't look up. That's correct. There has to be some mistake. We have company health insurance. No, Brandon, you have health insurance that I pay for. Had health insurance. But the company provides our benefits package. I folded the newspaper, set it on the side table. Show me the documentation. What? Show me the company policy, the HR paperwork, the benefit enrollment forms. Brandon's face went blank. It's handled through payroll. Call Madison, ask her to check with HR, ask them to show you the company health insurance policy that covers your family. He pulled out his phone. Speed dialed. Madison? Yeah, it's me. Can you check with Sarah about our health insurance policy? What do you mean there isn't one? No. I mean the actual company policy paperwork. I watched his face change as understanding hit. Dad paid for it. he said into the phone. "This whole time, Dad paid for our health insurance." I could hear Madison shouting through the phone from 6 feet away. "Brandon," I said calmly, "hang up and sit down." He did. "The car leases are next. BMW and Tesla. Both will be terminated by end of business today." "Dad, you can't just—" "I can. I will. And here's why." I picked up a manila folder from the coffee table. Vincent had prepared copies of everything. "You want to be self-made? Let's see how self-made you actually are." I opened the folder, showed him the payment records. Health insurance, $2,100 per month for 48 months. That's $100,800. Brandon stared at the documents. Car leases, $1,340 per month for 48 months. That's $64,320. More staring. Madison student loans, $890 per month for 48 months. That's $42,720. I closed the folder. Total, $207,840, all from my personal accounts, while you built your bootstrapped company story. Dad, I can explain. No explanation needed. You asked me to stay quiet about my investment so investors would take you seriously. I honored that request. But staying quiet about my investment doesn't mean I agreed to be called good for nothing but paying bills. Brandon's phone rang again. Madison. "Answer it," I told him. "Madison, yes, he's serious. No, I can't just ask him to—" "What do you mean the cars? They're being repossessed? Today?" He looked at me with panic in his eyes. "The lease company moves fast when payments stop," I explained, "especially when the lessee isn't the actual payer. Dad, please, we can work this out. Here's how we work it out. You have two choices." I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at my modest condo complex. Choice 1, you acknowledge publicly that DataStream Analytics was built with my investment. You correct the record with investors, with the press, with anyone who's heard your bootstrap story. You add me to the company directory as founding investor. You treat me with the respect due to someone who owns 60% of your company. And choice 2? I turned back to face him. Choice 2, you continue with your current approach. You stay self-made. You handle your own health insurance, your own car payments, your own student loans. You prove you can actually run this company without my money. But Dad, the cash flow, not my problem anymore. My phone buzzed. Text message from Vincent Anderson. Lease companies confirm both vehicles will be collected today. Insurance cancellation processed. Next steps. I showed Brandon the text. Madison's calling again, he said, looking at his phone. Don't answer. Drive home. Explain to your wife what self-made really costs. Then decide which choice you prefer. Dad, this is going to destroy us financially. Brandon, you've been telling everyone for 4 years that you built this company without family money. Today you get to prove it. He stood up, walked toward the door, stopped. What about my son? Your grandson? He needs health insurance. That hit harder than I expected, but I'd thought about this too. Your son needs parents who tell the truth. About where their money comes from, about who makes their success possible, about gratitude and respect. Brandon opened the door. When you're ready to have an honest conversation about our business relationship, call me. Until then, figure out how self-made entrepreneurs actually live. He left. By 4 p.m., both cars were gone. Repo trucks are efficient. By 6 p.m., Brandon was calling again. Dad, Madison is furious. She's saying this is all your fault. Interesting perspective. How is it my fault that you can't afford your own lifestyle? She says you're being manipulative, using money to control us. Brandon, I'm not using money to control you. I'm stopping using money to enable you. There's a difference. What do you want from us? I sat back down in my recliner, picked up the newspaper again. I want what any investor wants. Transparency, honesty, and appropriate recognition for my contribution. And if we can't give you that, then you're free to build your company however you choose. Just do it with your own money. The line went quiet for a long moment. Dad, we can't survive without your support. Then maybe it's time to reconsider what self-made actually means. I hung up. Within an hour, Vincent texted again. Emergency board meeting request filed. 72-hour notice delivered to all shareholders. Meeting scheduled for Friday, April 22nd, 10 a.m. at our offices. The real fun was just beginning. Friday, April 22nd.
the quarterly investor showcase at DataStream Analytics. Madison had been planning this event for 2 months. 25 potential investors, including 3 VC firms considering their Series A round. Local tech press. Austin Mayor's economic development team. The theme was sustainable growth, our vision for the next 5 years. Perfect timing. I arrived at 10 a.m. sharp. We work again. Different conference room.
Larger space this time. Madison had outdone herself with the setup. Professional lighting, branded backdrop, catered breakfast from a downtown hotel. The agenda was printed on heavy cardstock. 10 a.m. Welcome and Vision Overview. Brandon Sullivan, CEO. 10:30 a.m. Market Analysis and Growth Strategy. Madison Sullivan, VP Marketing. 11 a.m. Financial Performance and Projections. Sarah Chen, CFO. 11:30 a.m. Quanda with Investors. 12 p.m. Networking lunch. I took a seat in the back row. Nobody noticed me arrive. Par for the course. Brandon looked stressed. Madison looked furious. They'd been dealing with sudden expenses for 5 days straight. Health insurance quotes, car shopping, student loan payment demands. The presentation started on schedule. Brandon's opening was polished. 5 years of growth, strong revenue trajectory, expanding client base, market opportunity, all the right buzzwords. DataStream Analytics represents everything Austin's tech scene stands for, he concluded. Innovation, determination, and the entrepreneurial spirit that built this city. Polite applause. Investors checking their phones. Madison stepped up next. Her presentation was flawless. Market research, competitive analysis, customer acquisition costs, lifetime value metrics. What sets us apart, she emphasized, is our authentic story. We didn't start with Silicon Valley connections or family wealth. We started with an idea, a laptop, and pure determination. Stronger applause. Investors perking up. Everyone loves an authentic story. Every dollar we've raised has been earned through customer revenue or investor confidence in our vision. No shortcuts, no trust funds, no family bailouts. I checked my watch. 11:15. Almost time. Sarah Chen, their CFO, took the microphone for financial review. Revenue growth charts, expense breakdowns, profit projections. Our path to profitability demonstrates sound fiscal management and sustainable business practices, Sarah explained. We've achieved this growth while maintaining complete financial independence. Complete financial independence. That was rich. 11:30. Quanda time. First question from a VC partner. Can you walk us through your initial funding structure? Brandon handled it smoothly. We started with personal savings and revenue-based growth. Later added strategic angel investors who believed in our vision. Any family involvement in the initial funding? No family money, Madison interjected. We wanted to build this ourselves. Second question. What's your current ownership structure? Sarah pulled up a slide. Standard structure for our size. Founding team retains majority control, with minority stakes for strategic investors. Third question. Can you provide more details about your angel investors? Brandon hesitated for just a second. They prefer to remain anonymous. Standard in early-stage investing. That's when Vincent Anderson stood up. I hadn't seen him arrive. He'd slipped in during Sarah's presentation, positioned himself near the side wall. "Excuse me," Vincent said, his voice carrying clearly across the room. "I represent Madison and Bennett Capital Group, LLC. I'd like to clarify the ownership structure for the record." The room went silent. Madison's face went white. "I'm sorry," the moderator said, "but this is a closed investor presentation." Vincent smiled, pulled out his briefcase. "Madison and Bennett Capital Group is the majority shareholder of DataStream Analytics, 60% ownership stake. I'm here as their legal representative." Confused murmurs around the room, investors looking at each other. Brandon stepped toward the microphone. "There seems to be some confusion." "No confusion," Vincent interrupted. He opened his briefcase, pulled out a document. "Would you like me to project the certified cap table?" "That won't be necessary," Madison said quickly. "Actually," said the VC partner who'd asked about funding, "I think we'd all like to see the official ownership breakdown." Vincent walked to the presentation laptop. "May I?" Sarah looked at Brandon. Brandon looked at Madison. Madison looked terrified. "I don't think," Brandon started. "Here we go," Vincent said, connecting his USB drive. The screen filled with the official cap table, DataStream Analytics LLC. Ownership structure, Madison and Bennett Capital. Group LLC, 60%. Managing member, Richard Sullivan, Brandon Sullivan, 25% Madison, Sullivan, 10% employee. Option pool, 5%. Dead silence. Then a voice from the back of the room. Who's Richard Sullivan? Vincent turned toward my corner. Mr. Sullivan, would you like to introduce yourself? I stood up. Every head in the room turned. I'm Rick Sullivan, Brandon's father. And I'm the angel investor you've been hearing about. Chaos. The VC partner stood up. Are you telling us this self-made company was funded by the founder's father? $850,000 initial investment, I confirmed, plus $340,000 in additional capital over 4 years. Jesus Christ, someone muttered. Madison grabbed the microphone. This is a misunderstanding. Rick provided some early support, but... Miss Sullivan, Vincent interrupted. Would you like me to display the wire transfer records? No, Madison's voice cracked. Brandon stepped forward. Look, everyone, my father did provide initial funding, but you told us no family money, the VC partner said, packing up his laptop. You built your entire pitch around being bootstrapped. We can explain. Explain what? That you've been lying about your funding for 4 years? Another investor stood up. I'm out. I don't fund nepotism disguised as entrepreneurship. A third investor. How many other strategic details have you omitted? The Austin Business Journal reporter was frantically taking notes. Furthermore, Vincent continued, as if chaos wasn't erupting around him, Mr. Sullivan has been covering the company's health insurance, vehicle leases, and executive student loan payments, approximately $26,000 annually in personal subsidies. You've got to be kidding me, the first VC partner said. Madison tried to regain control. These are family arrangements that don't affect... They don't affect what? The reporter looked up from his notepad. Your financial independence claims? Your bootstrap story? Everything you've told the press? Brandon's voice was barely audible. We can clarify the record. The record is clear, Vincent said. He pulled out another document. Mr. Sullivan has exercised his right under the operating agreement to call an emergency board meeting. As majority shareholder, he's also initiating the buyback clause. The what? Sarah asked. Minority shareholders have 90 days to purchase Mr. Sullivan's 60% stake at fair market value. Based on current revenue multiples, that's approximately $4.8 million. Complete silence. Then nervous laughter from one investor. 4.8 million? They've been trying to raise 2 million for 8 months. Vincent nodded. If they cannot complete the buyback within 90 days, Mr. Sullivan assumes full controlling interest in the company. More investors packing up. The mayor's representative quietly left through the side exit. This meeting is over, Madison announced. Actually, Vincent corrected, this meeting accomplished exactly what it was supposed to accomplish. Complete transparency about DataStream's ownership and funding structure. As investors filed out, I heard fragments of conversation. Can you believe they tried to pull this off? 4 years of lying about their funding source? The father's been paying their bills this whole time? This is why you always verify cap tables independently. Within 10 minutes, the room was mostly empty. Just family, Vincent, Sarah, and 2 investors who stayed to watch the train wreck finish. Brandon walked over to me. Dad, you've destroyed everything we built. I looked at my son, really looked at him. Brandon, I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it was yours to begin with. Madison appeared beside him, tears streaming down her face. You've ruined us. Madison, I said quietly, I made you. The question now is whether you're capable of making yourselves. Vincent closed his briefcase. The 90-day clock starts Monday. My office has all the paperwork ready. He handed them a business card and walked toward the exit. Oh, and Rick, he called back. Excellent timing on this. I followed him out, leaving my son and daughter-in-law to explain to the remaining investors how self-made entrepreneurs actually work. Monday morning, April 25th. Vincent's office. This time, it wasn't just Vincent and me. James Wilson sat across the conference table, 52 years old, graying beard, serious eyes. Manufacturing colleague from my previous life, now one of Austin's most respected angel investors. James had been at Friday's presentation. He'd seen the whole show. Rick, he said, shaking his head, I've been investing in startups for 15 years. I've never seen anything like that. Good different or bad different? Honest different. These tech kids think they invented lying about money. You just reminded everyone that documentation beats mythology. Vincent spread the papers across his conference table. Monday morning meant business. Here's where we stand legally, he began. The buyback clause is in effect. Brandon and Madison have exactly 90 days from today to purchase your 60% stake. Purchase terms? Fair market value based on industry standard revenue multiples. DataStream's annual revenue is $5.2 million. Industry standard for their sector is typically 0.8 to 1.2 times revenue. Vincent pulled out his calculator. Conservative estimate, $4.1 million. Aggressive estimate, $6.2 million. We'll use $4.8 million as the middle ground. James whistled. They'd need to raise more money in 90 days than they've raised in 4 years. Exactly the point, I said. Vincent continued. If they cannot complete the buyback, the operating agreement automatically transfers full controlling interest to you as majority shareholder. What does controlling interest mean practically? You can restructure the company however you choose. Replace management, modify compensation, change the business strategy, dissolve the company entirely if you prefer. And their current ownership stakes? Brandon's 25% and Madison's 10% remain, but without voting rights or management authority. They become passive minority shareholders. I leaned back in my chair. So they'd work for me. If you choose to keep them employed, yes. James asked the obvious question. Rick, what's your actual goal here? Do you want to run a tech company? Do you want them out completely? Do you want them to acknowledge your contribution and find some middle ground? Good question. I'd been thinking about this for 5 days. I want them to understand the difference between building something and owning something, I said. They built DataStream. I own DataStream. They confused the two things. And if they can somehow raise $4.8 million, then they buy me out and they actually become self-made. Problem solved. Vincent pulled out another document. Speaking of which, I took the liberty of researching their funding options. He spread out a financial analysis. Their current investor meetings have been for a $2 million Series A round. 8 months of negotiations, no closes. Investors are concerned about scalability and market saturation. Friday's revelation won't help their cause, James noted. Exactly, which brings us to their other options. Vincent flipped pages. Bank loans, maximum business loan based on current revenue and assets would be approximately $1.5 million. Personal loans, Brandon and Madison's combined credit rating allows for roughly $300,000 in personal credit. So they could raise maybe $1.8 million total? In 90 days? Unlikely. More realistically, they might access $1.2 million if they moved very quickly, which leaves them $3.6 million short. Correct. James leaned forward. Rick, they're going to come to you, probably within the week, begging, bargaining, making promises. What kind of promises? Public acknowledgement, equity adjustments, board positions, whatever they think you want to hear. Vincent nodded. You need to decide in advance what, if anything, you're willing to negotiate. I stood up, walked to the window. Austin skyline, morning traffic, people starting their Monday routines. 4 years, Vincent. 4 years of invisibility. 4 years of paying their bills while they told the world they did it alone. And I don't want their promises. I want their choices to have consequences. Even if it means destroying the company, I turned back to face them. James, if the company can only survive by erasing my contribution and treating me like a burden, then maybe it deserves to be destroyed. Vincent made notes on his legal pad. So we proceed with the buyback timeline. No negotiations. No negotiations. And if they cannot complete the buyback, then I become CEO of DataStream Analytics, first order of business, correcting 4 years of public lies about our funding history. James smiled. Not a happy smile. A respect smile. Rick, you're about to become the most feared father-in-law in Austin. Good. Maybe other startup kids will think twice before calling their investors good for nothing but paying bills. Vincent closed his folders. I'll have the formal buyback notice delivered today. Certified mail plus hand delivery to their office and their attorney. Timeline? 90 days starting today. That puts us at July 24th for completion deadline. And if they try to restructure the deal? Offer partial payments, extended timelines, alternative arrangements? The operating agreement is clear. Full payment within 90 days or automatic transfer of controlling interest. No extensions, no modifications. I picked up my copy of the buyback notice. Clean, simple language, professional presentation of an impossible deadline. One more thing, I told Vincent. I want you to prepare a press release. About the buyback? About the ownership structure, full transparency. DataStream Analytics was founded and funded by Rick Sullivan through Madison and Bennett Capital Group. $850,000 initial investment plus ongoing operational support. Rick, James cautioned, that's going to end their startup careers in Austin. Maybe, or maybe it'll teach them that honesty is still a viable business strategy. Vincent made another note. Press release ready by Wednesday? Perfect timing. Give them a few days to process the buyback deadline, then remind the entire Austin tech community what really happened. I stood up to leave. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I have a company to potentially take over. The press release hit Wednesday morning. Austin Business Journal, TechCrunch Austin, and 6 local business blogs picked it up within hours. DataStream Analytics ownership structure clarified. Majority shareholder reveals 4-year funding history. Vincent had written it perfectly. No accusations, no drama, just facts. Asterisk DataStream Analytics, funded by $850,000 investment from Madison and Bennett Capital Group LLC, asterisk. Rick Sullivan, managing member of LLC, holds 60% ownership stake since January 2020. Asterisk. Additional $340,000 in capital contributions over 4 years. Asterisk company executives previously described funding as bootstrapped and self-made. Asterisk. Buyback clause initiated. 90-day timeline for minority shareholders to purchase majority stake. By noon, my phone was ringing constantly. Derek Taylor called first. Original co-founder, pushed out by Brandon in year 2. He'd been waiting for this moment. Rick, I can't tell you how satisfying this is to watch. Brandon erased me from the company history too. Told everyone he was the sole founder. Derek, you still have your original equity documents? Every page. Want to compare notes? Second call. Helen Moore, my accountant. She'd been tracking the DataStream payments for 4 years. Rick, Channel 5 wants an interview. Are you ready to go public with this? Not yet. Let the business community process it first. Third call, Brandon, panicked, desperate. Dad, this press release is destroying us. Sarah had 3 investors cancel meetings today. Brandon, the press release didn't destroy anything. It just told the truth you've been hiding. Can you retract it? Say there was a misunderstanding? No. Dad, please. Madison is talking about leaving Austin. Our reputation is ruined. Your reputation was built on a lie. Now you know what your actual reputation looks like. By Thursday, the Austin startup community was choosing sides. TechCrunch ran a follow-up story. The DataStream deception when self-made means dad-made. Brutal headline, but fair reporting. The article included quotes from 5 investors who'd heard Brandon and Madison's bootstrap pitch over the years. All expressed feeling misled and disappointed. One VC partner went on record, "Founder authenticity is crucial in early-stage investing. When entrepreneurs misrepresent their funding sources, it raises questions about what else they might be misrepresenting." Friday brought worse news for them. Austin Mayor's office quietly removed DataStream from the Austin Success Stories page on the city's economic development website. The Chamber of Commerce canceled Madison's speaking engagement at their monthly entrepreneur breakfast. 2 clients called to discuss the recent news and whether it affected DataStream's service reliability. But the real damage was social. Austin's startup scene is small. Everyone knows everyone. Coffee shops, networking events, investor meetups, word travels fast. James Wilson gave me the insider perspective when we met for lunch Friday. Rick, they're radioactive right now. I was at the Capital Factory event last night. Nobody wanted to be seen talking to Brandon. What's the consensus? Mixed. Some people think you're being vindictive, but most people are saying it's about time someone called out the fake bootstrap mythology. And investors? Investors are spooked. If Brandon and Madison lied about funding sources, what else did they lie about? Customer numbers? Revenue figures? Market projections? By the weekend, I had my answer about their fundraising prospects. Vincent called Saturday morning. Rick, I've been making discreet Because of the ownership revelation? Because of the credibility damage? Investors can forgive startup mistakes. They can't forgive startup lies. So, the 4.8 million buyback is impossible? More than impossible. They can't even raise the 2 million they were originally seeking. Sunday night, Brandon showed up at my condo. Alone this time. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes, the defeated posture of someone whose world had collapsed. "Dad, we need to talk." I let him in, made coffee, sat down across from him at my kitchen table. "Madison wants me to choose," he said quietly. "Choose what?" "You or her. She says you've humiliated us publicly, destroyed our business prospects, and shown no respect for what we built." "And what do you think?" Brandon stared into his coffee cup. "I think we never should have lied about the funding. But you did lie." "Yeah, we did." He looked up at me. "Dad, why didn't you stop us? 4 years of presentations, interviews, articles. You knew we were lying every time." "Because you asked me to stay quiet." "And because I thought you'd eventually give credit where credit was due?" "We should have. But the lie got so big we didn't know how to take it back. And now? Now everyone knows the truth, and we can't afford to buy you out." I leaned back in my chair. "Brandon, what do you want to happen?" "I want to keep building DataStream. I want to prove that even though we started with your money, we can create something valuable." "Under my ownership?" "If that's what it takes." "And Madison?" Brandon's face crumpled. "She's talking to divorce lawyers, says she married a successful entrepreneur, not the son of his sugar daddy." That hit me harder than I expected. Whatever I thought of Madison, I'd never wanted to destroy my son's marriage. "Brandon, what would it take to fix this?" "Honestly, I don't think it can be fixed. The trust is broken. With Madison, with investors, with the community." We sat in silence for several minutes. "Dad, there is one thing I need to know." "What's that?" "Were you planning this the whole time? The documentation, the buyback clause, the public reveal?" I thought about that carefully. "No, Brandon. I was hoping you'd eventually acknowledge my contribution voluntarily. The planning only started when I realized you never would." "And Friday's presentation?" "That was Madison calling me good for nothing but paying bills. Some lines can't be uncrossed." He nodded slowly, finished his coffee. "The 90 days runs out July 24th? "Yes." "And then you own the company completely?" "Then I decide what happens to the company." Brandon stood up. "Dad, I hope you'll consider keeping some version of DataStream alive. Whatever else happened, we did build something real." "I know you did. That's why I invested in the first place." He walked toward the door, stopped. "I'm sorry. For all of it. For letting Madison treat you that way. For lying about the funding. For taking credit for your investment." "Apology accepted? Does that change anything?" "It changes how I feel about you. It doesn't change the business situation." He left. 64 days until the buyback deadline. July 24th arrived like clockwork. No miraculous fundraising. No last-minute investors. No family members with hidden millions. At 5 p.m., the 90-day buyback period officially expired. At 5:01 p.m., I became the controlling shareholder and CEO of DataStream Analytics. Vincent had prepared all the paperwork in advance. By Wednesday morning, the transition was complete. My first act as CEO called an all-hands meeting. DataStream's office felt different when I walked in as the owner instead of the unwelcome visitor. 28 employees, various ages, nervous energy. Most had read the news coverage. They knew who I was and what had happened. I stood at the front of the conference room, same room where Madison had banned me from visitor lists. "Good morning. I'm Rick Sullivan, your new CEO. I know this situation is unusual, so let me be direct about what's happening." Faces around the room. Curious, concerned, some relieved. DataStream Analytics is a good company with solid technology and real customers. That doesn't change because of ownership transition. Your jobs are safe, your projects continue, your paychecks clear normally. Sarah Chen, the CFO, raised her hand. "What about current management?" "Brandon Sullivan remains as VP of Product Development. Madison Sullivan's employment is terminated, effective immediately." No one looked surprised. Word travels fast in small offices. Moving forward, this company will operate with complete financial transparency. No more mythology about bootstrap funding. No more claims about self-made success. We'll tell the truth about where our money came from and what we've accomplished with it. Derek Taylor spoke up from the back. Rick, are you planning to stay as CEO long term? Derek, good question. I'm 64 years old. I don't want to run a tech company forever, but I do want to see this business reach its actual potential. What does that mean practically? It means we're going to focus on customers instead of press coverage, revenue instead of media appearances, building value instead of building mythology. I pulled out a folder. I've been reviewing our financials. DataStream has strong fundamentals buried under poor management decisions. We're going to fix that. And employees who want to stay but are concerned about the change? Anyone who does good work and treats people with respect will thrive here. Anyone who prefers startup drama and founder worship should probably look elsewhere. The meeting lasted 30 minutes. Professional questions, straightforward answers. As people filed out, Derek stayed behind. Rick, I have to ask, how does it feel to finally get recognition for what you built? Derek, I didn't build DataStream. Brandon and the team built DataStream. I just paid for it. There's a difference. But the satisfaction of being acknowledged? I thought about that. 4 years of invisibility, 4 years of disrespect, 1 week of complete vindication. The satisfaction isn't in being acknowledged. The satisfaction is in setting boundaries that stick. 6 months later, DataStream hit $8 million in annual revenue. Turns out the company worked better without the constant fundraising theater and media management. Brandon stayed on as VP product. We rebuilt our relationship slowly, professionally, father and son, but also business partners who finally understood each other's roles. Madison remarried within a year, Austin tech marketing consultant. I hope she tells him the truth about her first startup experience. These days, when investors ask about DataStream's founding story, I tell them exactly what happened. A father invested in his son's business. The son succeeded. The father eventually got tired of being invisible. It's not a fairy tale, but it's honest, and sometimes honest is enough.